All right, how's everybody doing? I am so excited to be here. It's literally a dream come true. So I'm Addy Graves. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cashew Research. And I wanted to start my talk today with a bit of an opposite sentiment to probably what you've been hearing about all week, which is technology. And I'm going to start with a little story about myself. So I've spent a lot of time pitching to investors. I raised a pre-seed of $1 million to start our company, but it was a long road to get there. And I'll never forget this one pitch I had, which was me showing this investor the vision of our platform and how we're going to make market research accessible to growing brands and how important it is to listen to people before you make decisions. And he stopped me and he said, "Wait, you actually ask people the questions? It's not synthetic data or AI or robots?" And I said, "No, that's the power of what we do. You've got to ask people." So I think that really emphasizes what I want to get across today, which is really all about emotional connection and brand and what we do with research, because we do talk to people. So to start with one story, I wanted to highlight the founder of Method and why he was so innovative with his approach to this CPG space. The dish soap space was one that was forgotten about. It was not exciting. People weren't very proud of the dish soap that they had on their counter. And it wasn't until he found this space and he thought, how could I inject some life into this? Some childlike sentiment that makes it fun. And it ended up being extremely successful for him, now worth hundreds of millions, and he's gravitated into other spaces like first aid, as well as gummy vitamins for adults, and he continues to invigorate these spaces. Another good example of this is Airbnb, and when they highlighted to their hosts that they should offer these special gifts to their guests to really show the human and the host behind that experience that they were about to embark on. This went completely viral. People shared the amazing personalized gifts that they were getting at these houses and how incredible the experience was. And in the end, 86% of consumers do cite that exceptional experience as a key driver for why they select one product or brand over another. All right, so a little bit more about us. So I come from the world of market research. I've been doing research for over 12 years. That's talking directly with people, sending surveys, focus groups, doing interviews. Come from Ipsos, which is a global market research conglomerate. I've also worked agency side with amazing clients like Apple and AT&T and Infinity. My whole team is just as impressive, comes with so much valuable experience. You're probably wondering why we're called Cashew. We actually get a lot of LinkedIn messages from Cashew suppliers who say that they have a really good rate on their nuts and we can get a great deal through them. But it's actually a little deeper than that. So we're called Cashew because cashew nuts actually go through processing before they're editable. They're actually toxic before they go through that processing. And we like to draw a parallel with data. So without that process, the methodology, the right people, and the summary with data, it's really garbage in, garbage out. All right, getting to the good stuff. So we conducted a large-scale study across Canada with 1,200 Canadian consumers to really dig into what's missing in the CPG space today. So we looked at a variety of different verticals across beverages, dairy, snacks, as well as health products, and we found some really interesting nuggets I want to share with you. So the first is kind of going back to this idea of emotional connection and how important brand is when consumers are faced with which product to choose over another. And we found that 65% do cite the company's reputation as one of the top drivers for why they're picking that brand over another. Why is that? Well, there's a lot that goes into that, and it kind of spans off a bunch of different attributes that we pored over. We conducted very significant correspondence analysis to look at associations between brands and verticals, as well as the attributes that we asked them about. And we really came down to two core things that we found across each of these verticals that we dug into. So when it comes to snacks and health products, that's where we found that that emotional connection was extremely important to consumers. This is where that can really come through for them, and it's more top of mind than other attributes that we were looking at, which was them being local, offering good value, being convenient or available, as well as, I think it's availability. And then the other was trust. So we really saw that local loyalty really come to the top when it comes to dairy and health products. So this is where being a Canadian brand, being a local brand is a lot more important in those verticals. We also asked about many different brands represented actually here today, Midday Squares, Greenhouse Juices, and so many good nuggets to share with you on how you rated across these attributes as well compared to incumbents in the space. One thing I wanted to point out was this local aspect. So 52% say that they choose based on a brand being Canadian or local. Again, speaking to that kind of emotional connection that consumers have with those brands and feeling like they can identify with that brand more deeply than maybe somebody else that they've never seen before. So to summarize some of the white space that we identified in our study across different verticals so that you can walk away with some ideas. First, in beverages, we found that across all the big brands that we asked about, where people still felt like it was lacking and they didn't really feel like there was brands that were representing these ideas well, was local loyalty to Canada, being part of a ritual in their everyday, having a clean label that's really easy to understand. I think speaking to that DeSoir finding that you have to be super clear, and then feeling good about buying that product. So these are all areas in the beverage space that could be honed in a lot more, and there's still a lot of space. And then with snacks, the things that came out was emotional connection as well as that local loyalty, that Canadian brand. For dairy and plant-based dairy, it was sustainable packaging and innovation. So whether it's with your methods or your ingredients, that was another space that was lacking. And then in health products, again, it was emotional connection and sustainability. I wanted to share a quote here of one of the consumers that we surveyed, just to give it a little more life. It is a human on the other end. And they're just talking about how they tend to gravitate towards the brands that feel more real. We often hear that if there's a story on the back of the package, if they can see the founder's face, they understand where they're coming from, especially with that Canadian lens, like maybe an immigrant coming to Canada, sharing their story, how they built their business. These types of things really resonate and stand off the shelf compared to the clutter that exists. Okay, so shameless plug, I'm going to talk about our platform. So how do you actually get this information? It's actually a very complicated, long, can be very expensive process, and that's exactly why we've developed our company and the technology that we have today. So now with Cashew, you can hear from thousands of people, just like I summarized in this report today, in a matter of hours. So you can go from telling us what you'd like to research, whether it's the topic, maybe you're going into a new market, you want to understand the Austin market, let's say, you can put that in, and then our platform will do all the work for you, tapping into our methodology database based on our expertise, create a research brief for you, creates your entire survey, fields it to the people that you're looking for, and then it'll summarize all the responses in a report that's ready to share with your stakeholders. So with Cashew, I wanted to emphasize 3 things that we do. So what we do is we really unlock the why. So in a world today where you have so many different metrics, there's so many analytics to go through, you have to think about this funnel and that funnel. I think what it always comes down to is, okay, why is this performing? Why is this not performing? We give you the chance to ask people why. Why is it resonating? Why is it not resonating? And then you can use that information to make your decision. And then the second point here was just that it's going to be super fast and guided. So it's not like using SurveyMonkey where you're expected to write all of your own questions and choose your sample and do all of that. We are actually making recommendations throughout the process so that you know exactly what you're going to get, and it's all backed by research expertise. And then the best part is that you can keep a pulse continuously. So it's really meant for iterative research, not just like one study with 1,000 completes and you're going to hang on to that for 2 years. You can do multiple studies, across the course of the year, every quarter, or even more often whenever those questions pop up. And then I just wanted to highlight our team. We're here today, me, Waleed, and Tahir, if you want to chat with us and find out more. And then the best part is we're also sharing the report that we created in our platform that I spoke about today. And you can access it through this QR code. It's a little bit better on desktop or landscape view, so we're still working on some of the mobile capabilities, but really, really good on desktop, and I hope you guys get a lot of value out of it. Thank you so much.